Zhaniya Aubakirova presents a series of discussions about the place of Kazakh culture in the global world. Meetings with prominent public figures, candid conversations, collisions of opinions, and discussions about the most important things.
Dear friends, today with special excitement and particular pleasure, I will be talking to our legendary Roza Rymbaeva. I have always been dreaming of talking to Roza Rymbaeva. After all, she is a cult figure of Kazakh musical art. She is the true icon of our country. She is a benchmark for Kazakhs' beauty, talent, vividness, and strength. Despite the fact that we are representatives of different genres, we have absolutely common conversations and general ideas about the laws of art. I think it is going to be an interesting conversation. Dear Roza, here we are filming a cycle of programs about Kazakh culture in the global world. So, who are we in the global world? Where is our place?
It seems to me that we are living at the junction of Europe and Asia. We acquire European information and still preserve our own, Asian and Eastern. It seems to me that we are developing in a very interesting way in general. As for the where is our place on a global scale, it seems to me that the most important thing is to preserve our culture and to be educated, no matter what nation we represent, and it's then that we will take our place and represent ourselves in a great way. We will achieve what we want in a proper way. Education and culture, these things will save our people, our nation, I believe.
Recently, I heard that it turns out that people of culture are changing the world according to their ideal idea. And if not changing, then they are creating such an image of the world. And it is usually much better than the one that actually exists. So, what is the purpose of art? Thanks to our efforts, to the efforts of singers, musicians, composers, artists, ballet dancers, theater actors, they can see the ideal that the human soul aspires towards. This is impossible, of course, but we must strive to ensure that our inner child is preserved. We want our soul to remain vulnerable. We want a person to perceive this world in this bright and somewhat naive way. Is that what you think about yourself?
Well, all human life and the world in general, in my opinion, is based upon this, on the fact that we create beauty. As creative people, musicians, performers, artists, whatever genre we're speaking about, everyone tries to create beauty on stage. They are in charge of creation. Therefore, they exist at a slightly different level. They see this all and show it to the viewer. This whole life, it doesn't matter how many centuries we exist. Only beauty has been saving the world, because people are drawn to it. People expect this from us, and we must show this beauty on stage with dignity.
But also the most important thing is that it should correspond to what you believe as a person, as a personality, things you do on stage. Those great works, those amazing melodies, there is some kind of invisible connection, and people understand this. It doesn't happen that merely a voice can do everything. There should be some substance within the person, right?
Сделал все, да, то есть требуется содержание человеческое.
You walk on stage with a specific task. In this work or in this song, I want to say about this. Whenever I sang on stage, I went on stage fully convinced in my songs, with full faith. I have tried to convey to the audience that this is what I believe in, that this is the main thing, that this is exactly how this should be, how I understand this, and how I see this. From the very first note, I speak about it. Same as the teacher who stands near the blackboard and explains the lessons.
Oddly enough, but we educate society, don't we?
No, not so much we educate, but we tell them something.
We explain.
We're telling them something.
And don't you want this manifestation of power to rule over these spectators who are all sitting and catching their breaths, When you feel that they are united with you in the single impulse, that they can follow you somehow.
Они вместе с тобой, за тобой пошли как-то, да, вот.
You know, because of this confidence,
This actually is happening.
this is happening, but you don't do that deliberately. You're not saying, row 29, row 15, watch me.
It is impossible.
No, you just live in this image of yours, and whether you want it or not, the audience starts to pay attention, tries to understand you and gets carried away with you for the duration of the whole concert. They sing and dance and laugh, and if you cry, they cry too.
That's true.
There is this word in performance art, authenticity.
Yes.
The freedom of action. Nothing limits me on stage. And if I want to convince people, I will give it all 200%, and I will get to any viewer by this rightfulness.
Were you always like this, Roza?
I think it's something natural.
It's natural, isn't it?
Yes, because there are some brilliant actors. I think they're both natural and professional. Well, take Smaktanovsky, for instance. He possesses some kind of substance, some kind of unique psyche.
Personal magnetism.
It's a natural personality trait.
It is natural indeed.
It's not something one can learn. If it was, then all actors would have acted and sung the same. Everyone.
But can you learn that?
You can learn the technique, but how do you teach your soul?
You can't convey it.
You can't. It's something that goes along with the technique. You pour your soul into it, and then the effect is doubled, tripled.
Ну вот, Роза, например, я
You know, Roza, when I was young, I was so shy, so timid. I couldn't speak a word. I would walk on stage and shiver.
ходил на сцену, меня трясло.
Because of the responsibility.
I would feel dizzy. I couldn't think on stage. But now, I can speak at any given moment. Did I have it from the beginning, or was it something that I have developed over time?
I think it was because you performed a certain program at school and at the conservatory. You can do that, you can do that. This is how you were taught.
It was difficult back then, right?
Teachers primarily teach us technique and proper performance, but the soul, maturity, consciousness, this comes over time, and a child is never born smart or brilliant.
But prodigies do exist.
No, there are geniuses, but that is the exception. As a matter of fact, any artist evolves over time. Over time, he becomes deeper, brighter, he can express himself better.
That's true. Roza, you know, there is this common opinion that there should only be high art because it educates. But popular music, variety music, they are merely entertaining in their nature. It simplifies the population. And I think you will have a different opinion about this.
Я думаю, что у вас другое мнение.
There is a folk music sung by people which is passed from generation to generation. These are our folk songs. They're even compared with some opera arias.
Absolutely.
They're complex and they're sung by our best singers. Each village had its own composers, and they educated people with this music. It has survived to the present day. And it's popular, it's classical, it's the most affordable and simple. I think pop genre is the simplest and the most accessible genre. Simple and easy. Classical music sometimes is not something people listen to. And not only because it's too serious, too deep, but because
it is performed poorly.
no, each music genre should possess its own atmosphere, its sound of a certain mood, corresponding to the things that are happening around, right? There are lovers of purely classical music who would go buy a ticket to the chamber hall where Zhaniya Aubakirova will perform tonight. This person will go to listen to classical chamber music. He comes with a specific task in mind, for a specific type of music. And if you place the same chamber music among the pop music, naturally, the pop music will look very frivolous, noisy, and the classics will sound too deep and too serious.
Or,
And that's how you ended up being a serious musician. And us, well, we are engaged in the entertaining genre.
yes, but you know, I have long known that at the very core, all genres are about the same thing. They're blended somehow and talk about the most important thing, about the universal things.
The message is the same.
Whenever we meet with different people from different spheres of life, and in one way or another, questions are raised about the national heritage, about our traditional music, about what happens to composers, arrangers. And since we have a rich heritage, how much are we able to transform it, make it more creative, more modern, and present it properly?
Современным, правильно подавать его.
Что касается меня, восприятие вот этой народной музыки.
As for me, the perception of folk music came to me when I began to help in arranging and performing the songs arranged by today's contemporary composers, Roza Rymbaeva and Taskan. When they began to pick up a very beautiful harmony to develop this music turned into a large symphonic, almost opera.
Эта музыка превратилась в большую симфоническую оперную чуть ли не. Вот так я стала исполнять.
That's how I began to perform our folk songs in a modern way, with a good harmony, with exposition, some beautiful counterpoints, some kind of interludes.
Какими-то проигрышами.
That's how I see our folk music, and that's not a purely traditional understanding. I don't know how to play dombra. I wasn't brought up in this traditional music. I was brought up in modern Soviet Kazakh folk music.
As
for today's popular composers, many of them lack knowledge of deep, real music. And Roza Rymbaeva knew that. He was a theorist who grew up in the city.
He researched it, right? Those sources.
Yes, he researched it, he made arrangements, he arranged some cues. Many of our contemporary talented authors today lack knowledge and substance.
Knowledge of traditional music.
Traditional music, beautiful harmony, classical music, the foundation is missing.
Professionalism.
Yes, they are mainly engaged in imitation, and in general there is a lot of controversy about today's youth.
I was struck when he called me and said, Zhaniya, I want to participate in the Samgao project.
Why am I not in it?
Why am I not in it and my son is?
Why does my son participate in this project?
Tell me, how do you perceive it? Because when I started this project, I thought that many did not understand me and were pretty cautious, like, what do I want? I am a classical musician, so what do I want to do with Kazakh songs?
You see, many of the songs that were performed there, those were popular songs, and those were popular artists who performed them. But the arrangement, reading, and presentation of this music were different. It was a kind of new vision, some new colors. The music broadened there because the symphony orchestra performed, and they performed my song "Kunge Tabunu" in a completely different way. A new arrangement, a new vision of this music. It was very interesting for me to listen to this concert. I think not only to me, but to millions of viewers. In fact, I think that this concert should be aired more often.
Поэтому надо этот концерт почаще вообще показывать.
Şıkanında şılandan şadırağın Təcmete sağan şeksiz atıra Har gülüm kantanada Səvli qoşqan şartlarada Jaz yüreğim kalarma güyaqdarma Mağam baxıt beni versə Har o gün Şalqım dasıb gele versə берші, маған бақыт бере берші.
Розочка, ну вот я знаю,
Roza,
что у вас
well, I know that you, being a popular artist, you are often invited to toys, weddings, anniversaries,
на наши свадьбы, на юбилеи.
Да.
Yes.
and you dazzle there. But from the professional point of view, is this some kind of different genre? How do you transform your performance? What are the main features?
Я вам говорила, эстрадный жанр.
As I told you previously, the pop genre, it's the most popular genre, closest to the public. So you already know your task, right? You were invited so that during this break, people who celebrate anniversary weddings could sing the songs.
Гости.
Yes. Have fun, double their celebration, that's all. This is an opportunity to earn money for my future concerts, for my future videos, for the release of albums, for my stage costumes. I go to these events with pleasure because it's my opportunity to financially support my creativity. It is a support.
There are few concerts. Concerts are not always profitable. Concerts are not always paid. I once mortgaged a 3-room apartment in order to arrange a concert. As for charity concerts, of course, where I rest, it's the whole service, the whole environment, nearby villages, the area they all know that Roza Rymbaeva is resting there.
Район, они все знают, что там отдыхает Роза Рымбаева.
И надеются.
And they are hopeful.
Я обязательно.
Everyone wants to see me, and I will definitely perform. Again, it's their task to instill good taste, to perform good songs to the public. Choose exactly the songs with which you can instill good taste in the listeners.
Выбрать те песни, с которыми ты прививаешь хороший вкус слушателю.
I know that people of culture are workaholics. I am absolutely sure that you are a workaholic too. So, do you ever get a possibility to have a proper rest?
Of course, every time I attend a good concert.
Когда у меня у самой
Whenever I perform at my own concert,
Yes, this is kind of energy that will last for 10 days because you can't calm down. You can't move away from this state of mind, from this happiness of what you were doing, the fact that you were listened to, you were understood. Rest is not only lying by the sea on the beach. Rest can be reading a good book too.
Roza, well, what are you reading these days?
These days, I'm reading a collection of works of Chingiz Aytmatov in 8 volumes.
8 томов.
У меня тоже есть.
I own it too.
I've already read half of it. In general, he's my favorite writer. He wrote about our life, about our village, about our people, because this is Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, one country, one nation. You read and immediately imagined your grandparents, what happened to them, what difficulties they were subjected to. What a genius writer he was.
А какой он гениальный писатель.
Абсолютно.
Absolutely.
Do you agree with me?
Обожаю.
Absolutely.
I adore him.
Sometimes I cry when I reread his books.
А у меня была дипломная работа.
And I had a thesis, a monologue from the book, The First Teacher, and there was the character, Altanay. I read her monologue, and now whenever I reread it, I always cry.
Взволнована.
That is moving indeed.
Там такой момент есть.
The fact is that there was this episode when all this happened to her. She was kidnapped, she was raped, she was sold to some kind of buy, she was betrayed.
Ее предали. Потом ее спасает учитель Дышен.
And then teacher Dushen saves her. He saves her. They wash themselves in the river when he says, wash everything off. After that you will be clean, you will begin life anew. The teacher generally educates her. Then he decides that she can't stay in the village after what happened to her. He says, I will send you to the city to study. And when he escorts her, they go in a car to the station, and she has this internal monologue. She admits to herself that she loves this man. She also says goodbye to her village, to the mountains of Alatau, and she says goodbye to that purest, brightest, very first love of her, to her teacher.
Моя самая чистая, самая светлая, самая первая любовь.
That is really moving.
I recited this at the state exam and got a good mark, by the way.
Дорогая Розочка.
Dear Roza, we could talk like this forever. Our conversations are endless.
Of course, there are so many topics we can speak to each other about.
Thank you so much, dear Roza. It was such a joy.
See you then.
See you, and thank you.